Okay, now we're going to start with the ears. Just like we did when we were blow drying them, I like to have the noose up here around the muzzle. That frees up everything around the ears for me to work with. I have to look at the head, see how the head is shaped, if it's a broad skull, if it's a narrow skull, to know how I'm going to trim these ears. This dog does not have a lot of hair growth up here. Some dogs get real bushy. That could be good. If you have a dog that has a narrow head this way, then you can use some of that ear to expand his head. If they got a real big head, you may want to take this a lot tighter. This dog has a nice shaped head. It's nice and rounded this way and rounded this way, or as the standard says, domed a little bit this way and this way. So I want to first start with my comb. Comb this out. See how it looks. It looks a little untidy, looks a little full here, but for the most part, this ear is laying about the way I would want it. I'm going to show you if you have a dog that has a real big bushy ear, what to do with that. My first step is to flip open the ear and get rid of any excess hair that is in here. Now be careful. Some dogs, like this one, has an ear tag. It's a little extra flap of skin, so you want to be careful that you don't cut that. If you're ever worried, just pull the hair apart, find out where the base of it is, and then you can trim off past that. Okay? And then you leave the rest of that. Clear all this out from the bottom of the ear all the way up. And use your thinning scissors. Anything that sticks forward, I can come up. Remember, I'm trying to get rid of the volume, which means I'm coming against the grain of the hair. Take some out, and I'm going to comb it. Be careful of that skin tag again. I'm going to come up here and take out some of this. Again, this dog does not have a lot of ear hair here, so there's not much to take out. If they grow a lot of hair in through here, you just take your scissors up here and thin it out. Come around the edges and thin that out so it's all nice and smooth. What that does is that allows that ear to lay against the face. If it's too bulky in there and it sticks out, it's going to make an unnatural look. Again, you want this head to be soft. You want the expression. This dog has nice big round dark eyes. It's going to soften everything up. The last thing you want is the ears to stick out like this and make it look harsh. So I've got most of that all cleaned out here. I'm going to go ahead. There's some in front of there. Bring my scissors as close to the skin as I can get. Take 2 swipes, one in a different spot as the other, and get rid of the excess hair. See how it lays. If it's laying fine, that's fine. If not, come back in there again. Do a little bit at a time. Because if you take 2 swipes in the same spot, especially with sharp scissors, you're going to leave a bald spot. And you can always take more hair off, but you can't put it back on. Just like so. I'm not going to mess with this hair. This is actually hair that's on top of the head, not the ear. So be careful that you're only working with that one section. And there are a few steps to this. You can do them in just about any way you want to, with one exception. The top of the ear, you only want to trim this line once you've thinned out whatever you want to trim up here. The reason being, if you have real long hair that comes down and lays over the top, okay, and you take off this edge here, and then you come back up in here and shorten this, you may have some jagged lines. So what I do is I start with the inside of the ear first on the right ear. On the left ear, because I'm right-handed, it's very difficult to turn it the other way. But you can, it just makes it very difficult. So from on this side, I want to create an ear line here. I use thinning scissors, so it's a soft line. Straight scissors are going to leave a really rough, exact cut, and I don't want that. I want a soft expression. So I'm going to follow the ear. I can see the ear line in there. Make a couple of passes. Try to keep your scissors, try not to jab in and out like this. Try to keep your scissors as close to the same distance away from the ear, wherever that is that you want to be. And I go to about, if this is the end of the ear, I go to where it just about starts to curve. Right about there. I get a nice decent line there. Doesn't have to be perfect because I'm going to do some final touches at the end. But get a nice decent line, make sure there's not too much sticking out, and then put the ear back down and comb it. Where are you going, mister? Okay. So I can, now that gives me, I can see through any of the long hairs that are here now. Gives me the look of the ear. You also want to keep in mind the length of the dog's ear. If they've got a real long ear that comes and droops, if I pulled this real tight and brought it over to the other eye, that's too long. So I want to make sure that if I've got a real long ear, I can only shorten the length of the ear so much. So if I leave this real long and I take this real tight, that ear could be real pointed, and I don't want that either. So look at the whole shape of the ear and the whole shape of the head. This dog's ear's nice, it's a nice length to his head. So I can follow all the lines without having to adjust too much. If you have a real short ear, again, you may want to leave that longer all around to lengthen it versus worried about making it too pointed. So I'm going to come in here now that I've got this line here, and I'm going to get rid of some of this extra because I want it soft, but I don't want it bushy. So I'm going to get it laying flat. Remember we were talking about the few steps. I would think to myself, okay, this has got a lot of volume there. It sticks up. It's bushy. So how do I get rid of that? Well, I can't take my straight scissors across it. That's going to leave a real sharp line. If I go with it, that's going to blend it, but it's not taking out the volume. So I use my devolumizing step, which is to come underneath the hair and thin it like so. Again, I take a snip in this section, and then I move over. I don't want to hit the same section twice. Then I comb it out. You'd be amazed how much work you will save by doing that, because you'll save mistakes. And now, all of a sudden, one pass, and it's done. Dogs that have real bushy hair, it may take you 4 and 5 passes. But if you don't go through and comb it out, and if you hit the same spot over and over again, you'll have a nightmare. And fixing an ear is one of the hardest places on a dog, because it's one of the things that the judge sees first. It has to do with expression. And the hair there does not grow as fast as it grows everywhere else. It just seems to stay there forever and ever and ever. So I've got this thickness, but I don't have a lot of definition here because I have some hair from the back of the ear and the neck that's kind of overlapping. So I want to make a little bit more definition. Comb this out. Again, I've got volume, so I'm going to come. That tells me I'm coming up under the skin or by the skin, up with the thinning scissors. Take 2 swipes and comb it out. What this also does is when we have our show collar on, it gives us a spot for that to go without the hair sticking up. If this is my show collar, all this hair could stand up and, again, take away from the expression. I took 2 swipes. I still see a little bit of thickness, so I'm going to do it again. I would much rather have to do this 100 times than to take too much out and try to have to figure out what I do with that mistake. So there I have that. It's looking good. Maybe one more. Like so. And I'm going to comb it out and figure it out. Everything's starting to look really nice. I've got some definition here. It's laying really flat here, so the ear's going to lay nicely. A little bit of a line forming. Everything's kind of coming together, but I'm seeing some extra hair here and maybe just a little bit more here now that I've taken some out here. This is a pretty consistent thing that's going to happen throughout. You may take some off, and something else is going to appear. Don't worry about it. Don't think, oh my gosh, I can't take more hair. I've already taken too much. Remember, just like the dog, it's the overall appearance. So you're just constantly working it. You're constantly, keeping that image, that visualization going and making it all come together. So I'm just going to take a little bit more here while I'm seeing it. One snip, and that fixed it. Okay? Now I'm going to work off this. The front of the ear is probably one of the most important and the hardest to get right because it wants to show hack marks. It wants to show scissor marks. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong on the front of the ear. So with my experience, I have figured out to take this ear in my hand and kind of roll it out. What that does is it presents all those long hairs that frame that ear and sticks them out there. And what I do is I take my thinning scissors, and instead of cutting along there straight, as I'm moving the scissor down, I'm closing them. So it's kind of tipping and going down at once. Tipping and going down at once. Okay? That's going to give me a softer look. Now I've taken kind of a random thinning, a random blending, and now that's going to lay against that ear and be very soft and very pretty. This part up here is done a little bit different. Even though I've rolled some of it out, some of it's still going to be bulky. And you'll find this on the majority of the dogs. This is easy done if you go slow. You want to follow the ear line up into the head as close to the ear as you can and take one snip. And 85% of the time, that's going to fix it, which it did. I've got rid of the bulk here, but something interesting happened. All of a sudden, I've got a curl here, which is detracting from everything I've just done. So let's get rid of that. We're going to come up here. Now, this is something that is very different. We have gone up under before and devolumized, but I'm not trying to devolumize that. I'm trying to take just a section of the top of it. So I'm kind of like, I want to devolumize half of it. So I'm going to go and devolumize half. Come up here. So instead of going against the skin, I'm only going to cut that curl out. I want to leave a little bit of it because otherwise it won't look natural. Still there? I'm going to try one more. Be careful. If you do too much, you'll leave a hole. There we go. Now it's starting to lay better. Okay? I'm still seeing a little bit of it. I'm hoping that when I blow dry that for the day of the show, that's going to straighten out. If not, I'm just going to deal with it. Can't get blood out of a turnip, so don't try. Now, this is looking good. This is looking good. Let's finish everything else off. I'm going to take the tip, turn it up towards me. I know this dog's ear lays right to the corner of the eye where it should. It doesn't look long. So the natural part of the ear, if you look, a lot of the extra grows long. It kind of presents itself as to what needs to come off. So I'm just going to take that off. I go to about the same part of the ear that I did in the back as I did to the front, and I would just round that off. If you have to use your finger as a purchase point, that's fine, because you want to keep all these the same length. Now again, many people have asked me, why don't you just use a straight scissor? It'll all be even with one snip. Well, it will be, but it's going to look blunt and it's not going to look soft. And no matter whether you're talking about a puppy dog or a puppy bitch or a veteran dog, you still want that to be nice and soft and rounded. And there we go, rounded. Now all I have to do is come back, tidy up the outside, follow that same line that I have on the outside. I just tidied it up, leave it a little bit soft. Now what I like to do is I'm going to turn my scissors at about a 45-degree angle and bevel that. You do not have to bevel this. This is something that it's my preference, something I like. Many people say they don't like it. It's something I enjoy, so that's what I do. It's fine if you don't. Then I lift the ear up so that it's kind of in the same position as though the dog were holding it himself, and see if anything else sticks out. Maybe a little bit out there. And again, keep my scissors in about the same spot and just work it until it looks soft. And there's your ear. Not a lot of stripping. As a matter of fact, you saw, I did not use stripping knives on that at all. There's no need to. You get that nice soft look to it. The hair is all the same. No problem. One thing I do want to point out, if you have a dog that has really long hair and you've devolumized it, but the hair is very, very long, you can come up under, comb everything up high so it's kind of sticking out, and you take the ear up and you roll it down like this. And as you're rolling it down, you take your thinning scissors and just every so often take the tips off. That will blend it and smooth it down so that everything is going to lay fine. So again, take it step by step, however you want to do it, but have a system. The only thing that I suggest that you do is do the inside first, clean all this out so it's laying properly. Get yourself an underline going here so you have some sort of a foundation, and get your volume out first. Those are the first things. Everything else, coming back out here, I save it for last. If you want to do it after you do this, that's fine. If you want to come behind the ear then, that's fine. However you want to do that, do it. But just make sure you get all of your steps and do it the same way every time so you don't forget something. Because it will tend to not blend as well if you do it different every time. And that's it.